on emerging issues is called to order. I should call the roll.
Senator Brown.
Here.
Moon.
Here.
Gannon.
Here.
Koenig.
Here.
McCreary. Razor. Shore.
We have a quorum. We've got 3 bills here today. Actually, what, 4? But before we do that, we're going to go into an executive session. So I make a motion to move an executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. We're in executive session. I move that House Bill 2385 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This is House Bill 2385 that we heard last week. It's Representative Keithley's bill that was presented by Representative Owen. This bill prohibits local governments from requiring private property owners to accept certain types of income. I have a committee substitute, which has been distributed, ending in .02C. The committee substitute modifies the phrasing on several provisions and includes a change to add other housing assistance programs as part of the source of income that they may be considered by landlords as refusal of to lease. With that, I now move for the adoption of the committee substitute. I have a second. I have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the committee substitute say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is adopted. I now move, excuse me, I now move that House Bill 2385 be as amended by the committee substitute be voted out, do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ask to call the roll to vote House Bill 2385 out of committee do pass.
Senator Brown.
Aye.
Moon. Gannon.
Aye.
Koenig. McCreary. Razor. Shore.
And we're going to leave the voting board open as the members that are not here right now. By your vote of 4-0, the motion carries. I now move to exit executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. We are out of executive session. First bill that we'll be hearing this morning is Senate Bill 1459. Senator Koenig, whenever you're ready. Any of the witnesses testifying on behalf or opposition or informational purposes, I remind you to please leave witness forms if you want your testimony to be in public record.
Senator Andrew Koenig from the 15th District here to present Senate Bill 1459. This bill truly is rather simple. What it is we're simply defining reproductive health care and for state law and regulation purposes with the initiative petitions that are coming up, and we just want to make it clear that puberty blocking drugs, transgender surgeries, and gender affirming care is not reproductive health care. So that's all it does, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions for the senator from the committee? Seeing none. First witness to testify in favor of the bill, please come forward. How many people do we have in favor of the bill? How many in opposition? Okay. First witness to testify on behalf of the bill, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Jeremy Jacobs. I'm with Bound for Life St. Louis, and I'm here to testify in favor of SB 1459. You should have kind of 2 stapled pieces of paper that I'd like to go over real quick. The first is just 2 pages. The very first page contains the language that is what would actually go into our Missouri State Constitution if the initiative petition were to pass. You'll note that they continue to use, and I've circled them, this term reproductive health or reproductive freedom again and again. And I've boxed the words but not limited to. So it says reproductive health care, including but not limited to, and it lists a number of things. The problem is that but not limited to opens the door to a lot of other areas. So if you flip over to the back side of that page, you will see Boston Children's Hospital and their transgender reproductive health services. Scrolling down, if you go down a little bit further, you'll note that included in their reproductive health services are gender-affirming testosterone therapy, menstrual suppression, and hysterectomies. So there is, I'll go to the next page. Next page is a news article from Bloomberg News, Reproductive Justice is Trans Justice. And then the second page is from just a few hours up the road, the University of Chicago Medicine, again, in their trans care clinic, they perform menstrual suppression, gender-affirming hysterectomies, all included in reproductive equity. So the left, pun intended, has already transitioned this term that some of us recognize as being abortion to include a lot more than just abortion. If the petition were to pass this fall, it would undo all of the hard work of the SAFE Act last year, unless we define this term as not including gender transitions. So I ask you to support this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, next witness testify in favor of.
Good morning. My name is Timothy Faber, and I thank you for allowing me to be here this morning. I would encourage each member of this committee to vote in favor of the bill. Not only would I ditto everything that Mr. Jacobs just said, but this bill is also addressing simply a matter of linguistics. Rather than simply abortion or transgenderism or any other cultural, scientific, medical, or other issue, this bill simply sets forth the definition of a term used in various laws and regulations with the intent that the term not be confused with other issues. The term reproductive health care is being used by the transgender community to describe surgeries and hormonal treatments for gender transitioning. There are several articles on the National Institutes of Health website that bear evidence of this. And while there is a fervent discussion on the issue of abortion, on the issue of gender transitioning, and other cultural, scientific, and medical issues, using the term reproductive health in those contexts is, at best, confusing, but it is also seen by many as being disingenuous. While those discussions need to be had, and are being had, it is important for everyone involved to use agreed-upon language and terminology if we ever hope to come to any resolution. Thus, the term reproductive health care in all of Missouri's laws and regulations should be defined and only understood as not including gender transition surgeries for the use of cross-sex hormones or puberty-blocking drugs for the purpose of gender transition for minor children or adults. As a celebrity radio personality from the state of Missouri is famous for saying, words have meanings. Thank you. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? Senator Razor.
When did this obsession start? Like, transgender people have been around forever. America really kind of paid attention in the 50s when a man who had served in the military during the war then went to Europe and came back as Christine Jorgensen and celebrated. I've known trans people for decades, and like in the last 2 years, it seems all the right can think about are trans people. And I don't know where this obsession came from. If you can answer that just out of the blue.
Well, I can tell you I was not around in the 1950s, so I'm not sure when it started. But, okay. As far as the right being transfixed on that particular issue, I don't believe that's the case. I believe that as people of that persuasion or their sympathizers continue to press for more and more, the people on the right or the more conservative folks tend to say, let's not rush into this, let's not go that far. And so if there was not a continued push from one side, there wouldn't be continued resistance from the other. That's the only answer I can give.
I'll just end with this, Mr. Chairman. I understand that argument. I'm hopefully leaving the Senate soon, so I'll just leave with this. This is how we win this, is that we do press a little bit harder than society's probably ready to accept. Mm-hmm. And y'all bring these issues up, and then people start to meet us and realize we're not the monsters that they were always told we were. And then we win the battles. We win the war. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from this witness? Seeing none. Next witness to testify in favor of the bill whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Samuel Lee with Campaign Life Missouri, to go on record in support of Senate Bill 1459. And I'm testifying less about the substance of what's in this proposal, but more in the ability of the legislature to set parameters of what words mean in our state constitution. So as Jeremy Jacobs testified, that this constitutional amendment, which is being proposed, would say that there is a fundamental right to reproductive freedom, which is the right to make and carry out decisions about all matters relating to reproductive health care, including but not limited to. And as we've seen in the last few weeks or month or so, discussion about in vitro fertilization, that is not one of the things that's listed in here as being protected. But certainly I know Senator McCreary and others have argued that in vitro fertilization is something that would be protected under the Constitution if the proposal from Missourians for Constitutional Freedom becomes law, if the voters approve that. So what are the parameters of including but not limited to? And that's what this bill here is an attempt to do, to say it does not include things related to cross-sex hormones, puberty blocker drugs, and things like that. I would draw an analogy with the First Amendment to the Constitution, which provides in part that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Does that mean that someone can yell fire in a crowded theater? And the courts have said no. There are time, place, and manner restrictions on the First Amendment. So can the legislature, in this bill and in future bills, let's say related to parental consent for abortions, or even funding for abortions, can the legislature assert time, place, manner, and other types of parameters on that? Now, to be honest with you, because I'm asked to testify honestly, I don't know the answer to that. And I think no one will know until this would be approved and becomes law, and the ACLU or somebody challenges it in court, and then the courts would decide. Which raises the question, should we even be putting something in the Constitution before we even know what it includes? Having words like including but not limited to in our Constitution invites a long-term series of litigation, and certainly something for the voters to consider. But anyway, I'll stop there and just again want to assert that we're testifying in favor of Senate Bill 1459 so that we can start putting into law the parameters of what lawmakers can regulate if this constitutional provision becomes law. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sam, for your testimony. Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none, next witness testifying in favor of the bill, please come forward whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Bev Allen. I'm the president of Liberty Link Missouri. I just want to go on record in support of this bill.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next witness testify in favor of. Any witnesses to testify in opposition to? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me all right? My name is May Hall. I'm a resident of Columbia and a member of the trans community. First off, I'd like to start just by reading off the World Health Organization's definition of reproductive health care, because as has been mentioned before, words have meanings, and I feel we should get to the standard defined version of this one. That being, reproductive health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity in all matters relating to the reproductive system and its functions and processes. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a med student, but I think we can all kind of understand the basic fact that the endocrine system or things such as the sexual organs of a human being are a part of the functioning of a reproductive system. This this bill is a lot of things. It's a petty flailing attack against a marginalized group that has frankly caught enough from the right in the last few years, because something that was mentioned up here as well is this is a random obsession that's popped up. Trans people have been getting this care for decades now, if not longer. This is not a new thing, but the focus on it is. And so when I hear the discussion of, oh, words have meanings, or, oh, these are being offered under reproductive health care, the left is pushing it too far, it hasn't been pushed. This is just basic medical science that has been around for decades now. So for me, at least, this is on its basis a definitional issue. Reproductive health care does include gender-affirming care. That's just a basic fact of what reproductive health care is. You have reproductive endocrinologists who work with you when you do hormone replacement therapy. And so it needs to be included just because words do have meaning, and we can't just cut out things we don't like. Additionally, it's becoming increasingly clear sitting in this room to me that this is part of what I've continued to see from the right in this building, which is just being incredibly pressed about the initiative petition process, which is really odd for a party that claims to care about representing the people and representing freedom. If the people want gender-affirming care and reproductive care on the ballot, that's just how the system works and how it ought to work. So in general, I want to go on record and say that I oppose this bill. I think it's fundamentally quite silly to try and cut out specific parts of a definition. And I frankly see it as a petty flailing attack against a marginalized community.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there any questions for the witness? Senator Min.
Thank you for your testimony today. I believe there probably is a fundamental disagreement. Well, there's an agreement, first of all, that healthcare is healthcare. And when a male or a female, biological male or female, presents themselves to someone in the medical community, they should receive the care afforded to them. And when you talk about reproductive care, a biological male or biological woman should be cared properly according to their biological sex. So I think the differences that we see is that some have the notion that they can change their external presentation and in hope that they can become something other than who they were born to be. And so healthcare is healthcare. And I think the fundamental agreement we have is that if someone is ill or affirmed and they present themselves to a medical provider, they should get care. And I don't have any disagreement with that. But I think we're fooling ourselves when we try to purport a truth that really isn't there for the benefit of someone's emotional well-being. I don't have a problem with someone wanting to do what they want to do as an adult can make that decision. I think the fundamental question in this bill, though, is that we have passed a law that will prohibit the transitioning from one biological sex to another non-biological sex, and we just want to make sure that that's differentiated so that if something is passed in the future, that there is a separation there. But fundamentally, health care should be provided to all who seek it. So I think that's the primary difference.
So my only follow-up question would be, how does any of that affect what I said about the definition of reproductive care? Because it definitionally, gender-affirming care affects the reproductive systems. It falls under the category of reproductive care in the medical industry. So this isn't about like the ideological difference of not being who I was born to be, or SB 39 or 49. I'm not talking about past bills. My question is, definitionally, how does this work? Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, we agree that everyone should get health care. I'm under no impression that me taking hormone replacement therapy means that if I have testicular cancer, that shouldn't be treated or it should be treated some other way. Obviously, like, there are things that are going to be inherent to one's biology that you can only change so much. But at the end of the day, my question is, what does that have to do with cutting a specific, already included, medically accurate definition out of reproductive health care in what seems to just be a pretty clear attack on a community that's already catching enough flack?
Well, I think you hit on the operative word, reproductive health care. And I hope that we could all agree that only a biological woman could actually carry a baby to term in the natural way. And a male would be the only one that could actually fertilize that female ovum. And so I think that's where the disagreement is. We're trying to fool ourselves, and I think the term is used in some context, birthing person. That's a woman. And if you can define what a woman is, that might satisfy some of it. Can you define what is a woman?
A woman is someone who identifies as a woman. And before we jump
So
before
I
we
could
hang on
say
before
I'm
we
a
jump
woman,
on that, I'm
and
going
that
to
would be
ask
the
you a
farthest
follow-up
thing from the
question.
truth.
Hang on, let me ask you a follow-up question.
Sure.
Can you name one trait that every single woman has beyond identifying as women? Every single woman. Can you, like cis, trans, etc., even if you're just including cis women, can you identify one trait that every single cis woman has other than identifying as a woman?
So let me make sure I understand the term. Cis means a woman who was born as a woman.
Yeah,
Okay.
cisgender means assigned female at birth. They're not trans. They just they haven't transitioned at all.
So
They're
if I
cisgender.
understand your question correctly, all women, unless there's a physiological reason they can't, they do have breast, they do have genitalia on the lower side. I'll just say it, vaginas. They are able to produce ovum, and they are able to potentially, unless there's a medical condition, they can those eggs can be fertilized. Those eggs can be implanted into the womb. That egg can develop into a baby. And
So what about
ultimately
women
give
who
birth through the
you mentioned
to a human child?
you mentioned physiological sort of conditions.
You said what can they all identify with? I think that is part they can identify with. Would you disagree?
But under what you've just said, women who are born infertile, or just women who have a physiological condition that makes them infertile, wouldn't meet that definition.
But they all have breast, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay, most generally they do. And they
Okay, well, hang on. Now we're getting most generally. So I said
chrom-
every single cisgender
the
woman.
chromosomal makeup. Okay, how about that? The chromosomal makeup of a woman.
That doesn't work either.
Hey, I'm
There are
going to
women-
interrupt you. Well, let's get back to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The subject of it.
All right.
Are there any other questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Is there any other witnesses testify in opposition to the bill?
Thank you, Chairman Brown, members of the committee. My name is Mandy Hegseth. I'm the Director of Policy and External Affairs with Missouri Family Health Council. Our agency administers reproductive and health services, reproductive and sexual health care services across the state of Missouri by way of administering the Title X Federal Family Planning Program and also the Missouri Foundation for Health funded contraceptive equity initiative called The Right Time. So for a host of different reasons, we believe the spectrum of reproductive and sexual health care is known and practiced and does not need to be defined here today. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next witness testify in opposition to the bill. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Sharon Galway-Jones today on behalf of Promo Missouri in opposition to the bill. We believe that this bill creates unnecessary confusion. Currently, we don't believe that any medical professional would call gender-affirming care reproductive health care. They are two different disciplines. And conflating them in the law creates a confusion that is unnecessary. So for the purposes of clarity and not having the legislature overly intervene in medical practice, we oppose the bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, is there any other witnesses testify in opposition to the bill?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Amy Quo Hammerman. I'm a volunteer with the National Council of Jewish Women in St. Louis. We are a nonprofit organization with over 5,000 members and supporters across the state of Missouri, and we are informed by Jewish values to advance the social and economic welfare of women, children, and families in our state. I'm here in opposition of this bill. Excuse me. It is, frankly, offensive, harmful, and unnecessary for many reasons. First, this bill seeks to impose the government's definition of a field of medical practice, apparently not supported by anyone here in the actual medical committee. And with all due respect, even given the wisdom of the members of this committee and of this body, I don't know that that is the place for definitions concerning medical practice should be made. This is an attempt to impose your assessment of what constitutes reproductive health care in place of widely accepted clinical standards of practice and evidence-based medicine. Second, this bill infringes on the rights of parents to make decisions concerning their children's health care by usurping the very definition of a field of medical care without any demonstration of subject matter expertise. Third, this bill is unnecessary as it pertains to gender-affirming care for minors, since this body has already banned that care in this state. What more do you need to do to make it clear that you do not want parents to make decisions concerning their medical care about their own children? As a parent, as a supporter of families and children in this state, and frankly, of adults, because this bill appears to be an end run or a side door attempt to ban gender-affirming care for adults in this state, which thankfully you have not done yet. For these reasons, I urge you to vote no on this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses to testify in opposition to the bill? Are any witnesses testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator Koenig, do you have any final comments?
I certainly appreciate the hearing. The only thing I would say is that there's nothing in this bill that would ban transgender surgeries for adults. We're simply trying to protect the things that are already in statute in case there's a constitutional amendment that gets added to our Constitution. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next bill to be heard is Representative Baker. Whenever you're ready for here. First one up would be 2142, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee, for giving me the opportunity to hear House Bill 2142. Very simple bill that is attempting to amend the statute. Last year, we got part of this done, but the language that ended up being on the bill that the governor signed did not have the full updated language. So that's what this bill is doing, is trying to get that put into statute as well. So it's a fix to recoup the money spent on taxes for broadband grants that came through the federal grants with the ARPA money. Last year, what happened was on that language, it only affected the direct federal money. It was intended to include any money coming from the federal government that would expressly be used for broadband, whether that was a state or local pass-through entity as well. So, and then the other part of this is it should be retroactive to include anything that was expended after January the 1st, 2022. So the bottom line is the broadband grants were intended to be given so that every dollar could go to infrastructure development with that money and not paying taxes. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none, are any witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Bill Gamble, representing the Missouri Broadband Providers, formerly the Missouri Small Telephone Company Group. were small Missouri-based corporations and cooperatives in the state of Missouri providing telecommunications and broadband. As Representative Baker said, we've worked with the Department of Revenue. This does nothing more to make sure this is expressly for these broadband grants. And it's very important. Any taxes we pay, any of the grant proposals we've had is just going to take off what we were going to plow in the ground.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next witness testify in favor of whenever you're ready.
Gosh dang it. Stop. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Claudia Sands. I represent Brightspeed. Like to go on record. Like to go on record in support of the bill. Thank you.
I've known her my whole life, so I get by with that. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next witness testify in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Dustin Backus here on behalf of the Missouri Electric Co-ops. Just want to go on record in support.
Thank you for your testimony. The questions for witness. Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Philip Arnzen with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we'd like to go on the record in support.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, any witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Any witnesses to testify in opposition to the bill? For informational purposes only? Seeing none, Representative, you have any final comments? All right. All right, now, next bill up will be two bills combined, House Bill 2628 and 2603. This is also sponsored by Senator Baker, and I believe you have Representative Baker, I'm sorry. I believe you have a House Committee substitute that rolled these together, so whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is an issue. There's several pieces to this bill. I'll run through them real quick, but the larger portion of this bill is attempting to prohibit the use of deepfake video and audio productions in electioneering specifically, and if the intent is to injure the reputation of the candidate or party by deception. So it's really about election integrity and making sure that with the progression of the technology with AI now to be able to produce videos and audios for real, really cheap compared to what it has been like in the past, to be able to produce something that looks like someone, sounds just like someone doing or saying something that they didn't do, and then purposely use that to deceive voters and sway an election is what we're trying to get at with this. So, and the bill outlines that it's within 90 days of an election. I do have some changes that I want to put into a substitute to tighten up some of the things in this bill as it is in its current form. Have many discussions since we got this out of the House. There's also a provision for disclaimer that would allow the use of those deepfake videos and audios if there's a disclaimer that is accompanied with that synthetic media. It also creates a cause of action if someone violates the law. There's 3 levels of that violation. A few of those exemptions, reporting on the use of deepfake media during an election, of course, would be allowed as long as there was a clear disclosure. If a media company was deceived and made a good faith effort to establish that it was not deepfake material, so trying to put this back on who originated the content and paid for that content to be put out there. It also doesn't apply if used on the internet and a disclaimer is included that the media does not accurately represent the speech or conduct of the candidate. And then it doesn't apply to satire or parody as well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell with the deepfake portion of that bill. And then there is just the other part of that bill is simply dealing with the call list, the no-call list, adding businesses to that, and then the call spoofing portion of the bill. Preventing call spoofing. Now again with technology, the ability to make it appear like someone is calling you from a different number. Now there's several clarifications to that in the bill, but that's kind of the gist of it. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness or the bill sponsor? Seeing none, are there any witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Please come forward. Any witnesses in opposition? For informational purposes only? All right, thank you. With no other further business coming for the committee, I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? I have a second. We're adjourned.